Hi, I'm Katie Roering.
And I'm Eric Roering.
We're the founders of Fontana Candle Co. We took our hobby of candle making and turned it into $1 million business in 5 years.
Welcome to the Candle Co podcast. This is season 2, episode 2, Progress Over Perfection. Like and subscribe to follow along on our journey.
Please excuse us, we are sharing an iPad today because mine is dead as a doornail.
Progress over perfection.
Yep, so it's a good topic today for this. Why are we talking about progress over perfection?
Well, in my corporate life, I was always told by some very smart people, progress over perfection, because perfection will kill any project before it even starts.
Perfection isn't possible, in my opinion. It's impossible to be perfect.
You'll never launch if you are trying to achieve perfection. Any new product, any new project, any new business, if you think you have it perfectly figured out before, you will never launch.
On social media, one of our competitors in our space was saying how in one of her product lines, it took her over 2 years to launch it because she was waiting for it to be perfect. And although it's like, okay, yeah, that sounds admirable. That's awesome. That's wonderful. I take a step back and I'm like, no product's ever perfect.
Well, the thing you have to think about it, because if you can build something to perfection and you're the only one that thinks it's perfect, there are going to be a lot of other people out there who don't think it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wasted a ton of time trying to build your perfection, which isn't someone else's perfection.
Yeah, like what is the definition of perfection?
Right.
It's different.
I have very different mindsets about what perfection is, just the two of us.
Yes.
So if you're trying to build a mass product that's perfect, you're never going to achieve it for everyone.
Very true. So what is the goal when we launch? What are we looking for?
We're looking for a viable minimum.
A minimal viable product, an MVP.
Right. So if you want to put a real term to it, it's something that you're comfortable with launching, you're happy with, but something that you can get into people's hands and get their feedback for.
Yeah, it has just enough features to be usable by early customers who then provide you feedback.
You need to be able to have a product out there being used by people other than you
To get feedback.
Right, because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And if you don't get it in front of other people, your customers, you're never going to get that feedback. It might hurt sometimes because you think something that you're happy with or close to perfect isn't even close.
Well, this brings me to our holiday cheer candle from the season. We formulated it. We were so excited. We're like, this is the winning scent of the year. This is it. People didn't like it.
No. And we tested it with everyone. So we had 11 or 12 people tested in our team, and everybody loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But we got more complaints or unlikes for that product than probably 90% of our other products.
Because on the other hand, we had pumpkin pie, and because we use essential oils, there was no pumpkin in it, and it was one of our lighter scents. So I was really nervous about that launch. I was like, "Ooh, we're gonna get some negative feedback." But then everyone loved that scent.
Everyone loved it.
Like, we truly have no idea what's going to happen until we launch that product out into the universe.
Yeah, and it's important to get that product launched in the other people's hands and consumers' hands so that we know.
An important distinction is testing your product, because we're an e-commerce company. The vast majority of our sales come from our website. How does that product ship?
How does it ship? How do we make it at a larger scale? There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on.
But it's like with packaging, with our room sprays, we didn't know until we shipped out thousands or tens of thousands of them that in certain instances, they break in shipment.
Yeah.
Like, you really don't know things until you launch it.
And that's very true. And I think there's one caveat to launching a product, because this is something that we dealt with. It doesn't mean launch your product all in the sense that you're buying custom tubes, or a custom or co-manufacturer is making it for you and make 10,000 of them. Because if you get feedback really quickly that it's not perfect, you're 10,000 units in the hole. So launch something smaller. I think
Depending on your volume.
depending on your volume, but a perfect example of that is our lip balms. It was a new product for us. We were working on the formulation. It was something that we all liked, but we also wanted to make it in a custom tube. And so rather than buying 10,000 custom tubes
And waiting 6 months to take possession of those tubes.
which 10,000 is the minimum order quantity, we launched them in a small batch batch, I think we made 500 of them in plain white paper tubes to try the formula out.
We've done this for a couple products now. We call it our product development team. So we're inviting our core, best engaged customers to help us formulate these products with us. And we give them a discount. I think the products are like 50% off. But then they get a survey and we ask for all sorts of feedback on what they think about the product. So they truly feel like they are part of our product development team.
And we're very fortunate now that we're in a position that we have those core customers and those people that love Fontana and our products. But if you don't have that yet, expand your group, expand to friends, give them to friends, give them to family. Say, hey, can you try this for me? What do you think? And give me your honest feedback.
That's the key right there.
That's the key, because your friends and family might hem and haw about giving you honest feedback compared to customers, but you got to get it in the hands of somebody else, someone who isn't biased, hopefully, and can give you real candid feedback.
So with a candle, how do we know a product's minimally viable to go out? It has to burn well. That's a non-negotiable. You can't have a poor quality burn.
And I would say that's one thing you, specifically to candles and body care formulas, make sure your formula is correct in the sense that it's not going to explode or start the house on fire. Or
it's safe.
Yeah, make sure it's safe. That's something you need to do before. Dialing in a scent and scent load and all that other stuff, that's the part we're really talking about.
And I'm learning as we go beyond candles. Of course, the candles have to burn well. They have to perform. But soaps, foaming hand soaps, anything with a pump or home sprays, those pumps need to work. So you need to test them all the way down till the bottle's empty, because sometimes they work differently half full.
Yeah.
And, down to the bottom.
And I think that's one of those progress over perfection things is don't launch your first trial. Don't give your first trial to a bunch of friends. You still need to do testing. You still need to be having a product that you're happy with, but it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, this doesn't mean we're putting out crap products by any stretch of the imagination.
Because we tried 5 or 6 lip balm formulas before we sent them to customers. But we got to a point that we were like, okay, we all like this. None of us got plump lips because of some allergic reaction or anything like that. But we got it to the point that we were like, okay, now we need some outside help and some outside feedback. And
the funny thing was, all that feedback that we got for those testers of our lip balms were on the tubes themselves and not so much the formula of the lip balm.
That's a good point, because yes, we were playing with the formula, but we got a lot of feedback on the tubes, which your product that you're trialing in might not be your end product. So if you get feedback about, oh, the tube was too big, or
they were confused how to use the tube.
It doesn't spin because it's a push.
So that told the marketing team that we need to put copy into the product description on how to use the tube.
Yeah. So you might get feedback that you weren't even anticipating.
Yeah, we didn't expect that.
And you might get feedback that may or may not be relevant. Because if somebody says, oh, I don't like the white tube that it came in, okay, well, it's not going to come in a white tube. But if that's all you're complaining about, okay, that's good.
You need to learn how to filter your negative feedback. I've learned that from this business, because a one-off feedback, you can sort of disregard that. Everyone has their own opinion, but it's when you see repeated patterns of feedback that you have to start to take note and say, okay, is this something that we need to look at?
And another good point of keep track of your feedback. Have some way to track it, because if you're getting a dozen responses of, I don't like the scent, I don't like the scent, I don't like the scent, okay, that's something to pay attention to.
Like holiday cheer will not be back in its current form.
No, because we got so many complaints that I didn't like the smell.
The winter green.
The winter green.
Yep.
And so we know that now, and we'll retweak it and launch something else. It's something that you have to be aware of and understand what is a one-off versus what is consistent feedback.
And we continue. So our lip balms are launched. They're in their final packaging. They're in their production. But we're now asking for feedback. Do you want SPF in these lip balms? So just because they're launched, they're not done yet. We're not done perfecting them.
We've sold probably 5,000 lip balms now, and it's great. It probably could stay as it is, but what's that next iteration? How do we still build to that perfection, and incrementally, one step at a time? How do we make the product better? How do we differentiate the product? How do we make it more perfect for the customer?
Yep. How do we make it what our customer wants? I think that's our key we're learning. It's about what our customer wants. It's not what we think we want or what our team wants. It's what our customer wants. And you have to get in the hands of the customer to know that.
Right, because some people love it, and when we're saying we want to look at adding zinc oxide as a sun protectant, some people said, I don't really care. And a lot of people said, yeah, that would be great. So then it comes down to, okay, are we going to launch 2 products? Are we going to have both iterations?
Well, then we got feedback. Well, zinc oxide adds a funky taste to lip balms. So the other day you ate some zinc oxide to see how it tasted because
I don't know. I know what I've read on paper and how to use it and formulate with it, but I've never tasted it.
I think when you focus on small incremental growth and perfecting a product incrementally, it's a lot less overwhelming.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because formulating the lip balms themselves was a lot of work. And if we were working on the formula, getting it right, and then perfecting our formula for launch, and then say, okay, now I want to add zinc oxide. Well, you're starting all over almost, because we haven't played with zinc oxide yet, but does it change the grittiness of it? Do we need to increase an oil in it?
This is really the joy of being the maker and the manufacturer. Because I'll say we used a co-manufacturer for our bar soap. I would say they're perfect.
I love our bar soap.
I mean, there's nothing I would change on our bar soap. But they had a team of chemists formulating it. Like, they're beyond being a maker. Like, they are a legitimate major...
And even then, we still got production samples.
We got 2 or 3 iterations to get where we are now.
Right, so they still sent us samples. And we tweaked our formula because the first time it came through, it was a little drying. So we asked if we could add shea to it. They added shea and sent us another sample. And then we said something about the foaminess or something like that.
Or the size of the bar, getting the size of the bar down.
It was 6 ounces and it fit in my hand fine, but it didn't fit in yours.
Yep. And I mean, using an experienced team like that, they said, well, aren't most of your customers women? Well, we said, yes. So they said, you really want the bar soap to fit comfortably in a woman's hand. And I would have never thought about that.
I wouldn't have either because I was going for value, not functionality. And that's where some experience comes in. And you will get that experience as you formulate. We can usually now get scents down pretty quick, understanding mid-note, top notes, bottom notes, or base notes, but it's still trial and error.
Sometimes I think if you have the money, it does benefit you to just go with a co-man that knows what they're doing.
There's definitely some benefits to going scientists.
It removes that trial and error that we have as the makers and the manufacturers ourselves. But I think when you are formulating your product and it's your baby, you're creating it, there's a joy in this journey.
There is. And one of the products we're working on right now is a body butter. It's something that I use, and I don't really use moisturizers now, but I've started it as we started developing it, and it's really nice. It's something cool. It's something I would use, and it's something I've really enjoyed formulating.
I think it's still too hard.
Yeah, I do too. We're all working on a magnesium butter, and that's a whole new thing for us because magnesium flakes need water. We don't usually use water, and so understanding how do you preserve something like that naturally.
We don't want to send out moldy body butters.
You know, and understanding and making sure that it's safe for our customer, both on the skin and in a natural state. And we haven't gotten that done yet because it's a new product. It's really hard and it's nice, but the functionality or the feel of it isn't quite right yet.
Right.
And so it's just, we're not quite ready for it. So you can go out to a handful of people because we're not happy with it.
Right. I would even say this podcast for us is a minimal viable product.
Barely.
It's not perfect in any stretch of the imagination. We're learning as we're going. Neither one of us are professional podcasters.
Nor do we have any financial backing to be
Yes. So this is an example of another minimal viable product.
And again, we're getting feedback from you guys of our audio isn't right.
Some of it is nicer than others.
Yeah.
So if you have feedback, can you please
Yeah, we do.
word it so it's constructive and not just mean? Thank you. The empath in me says thank you.
I mean, it's fun doing this, but it is a lot of work. And
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And then you tend to hear the negative comments louder than the positive ones. So sometimes it's like, why are we doing this?
yeah, and that just goes as an example for any product that you launch.
Any business, any product.
Anything else. I remember when I told my parents we were starting a candle company, they looked at us like,
You're crazy.
you're crazy, okay?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Some people are going to love you. Other people are going to hate you. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. If you have a passion for it, if you like doing it, then do it. So I think the gist of this podcast is get a product that you are happy with,
That's safe.
that's safe, and give it to people. If you don't have a customer base yet, just give it away. It's a couple dollars a sample, but
Or go to a maker's market and sell it. So that basically is like a market test group, especially for a candle. You're sitting at your table or your booth watching people smell and interact with your product firsthand. That feedback right there is invaluable.
and put a little card next to it with your email and saying, hey, I'm new. If you have any feedback, please email me. Sometimes people love giving their feedback, and if you give them a contact, they might send it back to you.
Well, I would say if you have an established client base and you have an established email base for your clients, send out a survey via email. Give them 15 or 20% off for completing their survey. The information that you can get from that customer survey is invaluable. When we worked with a conversion agency to redo our entire website, we started in September with them. The first thing they did is sent out a survey to all of our customers asking for feedback on our products, our brand, our website, everything. And they are using this feedback to hone in on what our customers are looking for and the language that they're using.
So regardless of your size, you can get feedback. It may get easier the larger you get, but I'm sure you know people that will give you an honest opinion, so give them a product.
So if you found this episode helpful or enjoyable, please consider leaving us a review. It really does help us out.
And if you're listening to this episode and have a podcast or Spotify, please consider checking us out on YouTube. We are working on some exclusive video content showing our order fulfillment process and our tour of the facility.
We're going to take you into Fontana.
We'll take you into how we run our business.